Hello there and welcome to yet another Why You Lost. This one sent to me by the Phoenix King, who's actually playing on the opposing side of this replay. He's playing the Greenskins against those damn dirty rats. And both armies are full 20 stacks, so no numbers advantage to be had. But let's see what went wrong for the Phoenix King in this one. So a map, nice and open, very flat for the most part. Let's have a look at his army. So we've got front line of goblins. The Warlord's Boys, the other Regiment of Renown unit, the 8 Peak Loonies. For some reason they only get called Night Goblins in multiplayer. Then more Night Goblins, and more regular Goblins. So a whole goblin-y long front line of goblinness. Also some archers, got a couple of Arab boys here. And some Night Goblin archers, 2 of each of those. So a fair bit of ranged as well. And then he's got a little fun time party here of a Night Goblin Big Boss on a wolf with his assassin ability. Maybe going to look to kill some characters. 2 stone trolls, a river troll hag lady. She's got her skulls out. And then Skarsnik is the lord. And he's just actually dropped tricksy traps to make these trolls invisible. I feel slightly responsible for this because of my hidden Black Orcs the other day. He's also got 3 units of skirmish cav as well. Only the goblin wolf archers though. They'll put out some damage over time if you can get some good targets, which is fine against the Skaven, of course. They don't have a lot of armor, so as long as you can keep those safe, they should be able to rack up some damage. So a lot of gobbos, a long line against this big Skaven kind of box. It's more of a circle, but he's kind of got his box the wrong way round because he's got Skaven slave spears at the front and then a bunch of clan rats around the sides and back. But clan rats are the tougher units, so you want those at the front. You've pretty much given him the weakest part of your box right in front of him, rather than putting it away around the back. Also got the tail slashers and then a few characters. Got a chieftain, a lord scroak, and an assassin. So a potential character assassination party there. I'll have to be careful of that. 2 poison wolf rats over on the edge, and also Ixcha's triad. So some sneaky anti-large boys. And in the center, the pièce de résistance, 2 Jezzails, 1 natty boobos, and some poison wind globodiers. So boxy Skaven, not the best box of Skaven. You really need layers if you're going to box as Skaven. And obviously the weakest point is at the front, so this Skaven box may well struggle, but we'll see where the Greenskins go wrong. He's got a lot of silver shields up front though, so that's good for blocking all those missiles. Going to waste a lot of ammos. He's trying to shoot the skirmish cav though, with the Jezzails. He's advancing in one big old long line. This can be very good for enveloping, but it's going to be hard to envelop a box. But as I say, he's got that weak front line of Skaven slaves. All he needs to do is really punch through that hole and then spread out from the inside. Does have a little bit of resistance in the characters. Jezzails are moving up. And these are really all he needs to worry about is all those ranged units. The Jezzails and the Poison Wind Globes. Take those out, you win the battle. It's as simple as that with this one. And that's what you need to recognize as soon as you start a battle. You need to look at the enemy army and see where their most dangerous things are to you. And then try to take them out. For the enemy, it's the stone trolls that he's got to really be wary of. Skirmish cavs moving around the flank as well. So he's bringing his stone trolls in. The enemy's kind of opened up the box a little bit. Which wasn't the best idea because now he's given the Greenskins a bunch of holes to get through. And the Phoenix King is going to take advantage of that. Bringing his Goblin Big Boss through. And we can see the play to make here. Bring these Stone Trolls through. Get them into these Jezzails and these Poison Winds. And it's mostly game over. But oh no. The Phoenix King commits his first mistake and decides that he really doesn't like Clan Rats. And instead tells these 2 units of Trolls to take out this 1 unit of Clan Rats. Which is a big waste of the Trolls. You could maybe send one of them in here to get rid of this. But these aren't the threat of the army. Clan Rats are nothing. Ignore the Clan Rats for the most part. Get rid of the dangerous stuff, the expensive stuff, the powerful stuff. These goddamn globodiers and these Jezzails, as he's doing with his big boss. He's pushing them back, he's tying them up. The Ixcha's triads have arrived, but even if they came along, the trolls could run away from them and at least still harass, break everything else, and then allow this front line to come through, as it's doing here. Some of the goblins breaking through, trying to flank around. He should probably be cutting inside here, trying to get inside the box to get after those missiles again. And that can be the common mistake of trying to fight a box, is that you try to fight the entire box all the way around or something, when really all you need to do is find a hole and get through. So at the moment, you've got the box, roughly 4-sided box that looks like this. And as you can see, currently, he's going for every side of the box. He's coming from the front, he's coming from the sides, trying to get around the other side as well. When all you really need to do is just pick a weak point and try to get through it. You'll need to tie up some stuff on the edges, but you can bring some of this flanking stuff out and inside as well. And then you can spread out from the inside and you can attack the box from the inside, and anything in the center of the box is going to get fucked. So it's all about trying to find a weak point and getting through. In this case, the weak point was given to him right at the front of the army. And his opponent even made it kind of easy for him by coming out with those Skaven slaves, which created those big gaps, which allowed the trolls to go in and things. But now he needs to be pushing after the Jezzails. And again, we got the trolls fighting units they don't want to be fighting. The triads are not a good fight for them. taking their armor away, anti-large. Let the goblins fight those and wear those down. Bring the trolls in to take care of all the ranged units, because it's the only mobility you've got. Everything else in his army is quite slow apart from the wolf riders. He's got mostly infantry, so his army is lacking some mobility. If he had a few units of cav right now, ooh, this one would have been over 5 minutes ago, even though the battle hasn't been going that long. That's how strong it would have been. A couple of squig hoppers here could have gone to absolute town on all those ranged units. His trolls have survived okay. They've taken out the Ixchus triads, but again he commits the mistake of going after the goddamn clan rats with his trolls. I think he just really hates clan rats, so he's brought them in here, but he really doesn't need to. They're only clan rats. They're not really that big of a threat. They're not where his attention should be with his strong units. He's got night goblins right here. These can deal with the clan rats, so just come in, let them tie up the clan rats, and bring your trolls through the gaps to come and harass all of these danger units, the Jezzails and the Globadiers, because these are the things that are going to take out your strong units, the trolls. And as we can see, the 3 units of Jezzails and the Globadiers just sat here peacefully, unbothered, and now they're going to blast away at the trolls, blowing them up with the poison winds, sniping down the river hag with the Jezzails. She's in trouble. But I think he's starting to realise here he's bringing some of the trolls around, but they get stuck on another unit of goddamn clan rats or Skaven slaves, and now his trolls are in trouble. They're wavering, they got wolf rats on them as well, they're being poisoned. So he's feeling the effects of not going after these missile units. He has got into the Globadiers there with his trolls. So he is finally getting some damage on them. Still needs these 3 though. If he had some cav right here... Whoop, didn't mean to do that. If he had some cav around the back of here, like I said, those squig hoppers. He does have the wolf riders. What's going on over here? Some plague mites have been spawned up. He's got all those missile units as well, which probably haven't been of great use to him. Not sure they really had a place in the build, but we'll talk about that. For the most part, he needed to get after these missiles. These were the big danger to him, and unfortunately, he isn't getting enough pressure on them, and they're going. He's going to get rid of some wolf rats. Nope, they're coming back. They're coming back. No breaks for the Phoenix King. But here we can see one of his trolls is routed. The other one's just gone as well, so he's lost his 2 strongest units. And if we look at the leadership, trolls don't have a lot of leadership anyway, and there's a ton of leadership penalties on him from all that missile fire, including damaged by artillery, because those poison winds count as artillery. So that's a big leadership penalty, -10, and they just can't handle it. They've run away. They've taken too much damage in a short space of time, and now they're running, and they're probably going to get wolf rats on them to chase them off, and those trolls are gone. And it's all simply because he didn't pressure those missile units enough. A lot of battles against ranged heavy factions are won by simply pressuring those ranged units, or better yet, killing off those ranged units. If you stop them from firing, you win. Because the enemy, if they spent a lot of money on their ranged units, they're likely relying on them to do damage, so all you have to do is stop that, and you win. His trolls are going off here. They're actually going to shatter as well. You see the white flag going. And this is what can happen. When units get hammered with damage constantly for a fair amount of time, they just give up. And they say, fuck this, I'm going home. If I can get home at all, because I might be killed. Which these trolls likely will make it home. They've got plenty of health, they will regen, they'll be okay in the long run. So that's good. Troll lives matter. But yeah, that's just the morale shock. Phoenix said he didn't understand why his trolls shattered here, but it's simply a case of the unit just taking too much damage for too long, and then it just gives up. So that's pretty much the case of this battle here. So the moral of the story is to look at the enemy army before you start the battle. Try to figure out where the most dangerous and powerful units are. With the Skaven, it's often this. It's often the ranged units and artillery. Sometimes the monsters as well. Rarely do you have to worry about the infantry too much. They've got some cool units, some dangerous units, but people don't really bring those en masse too often. And especially clan rats and Skaven slaves that you often see, they don't really matter that much. You can ignore them for the most part until the dangerous things are taken care of, and then you go after and try to take out the clan rats. Because they probably won't have a leg to stand on with all the tough units you might have left alive by that point. Because if you've taken out all the Jezzails and Globadiers here, he would have literally nothing to stop those trolls with. The trolls would smash those wolf rats, they'd smash all the infantry, they'd be able to smash up Skrolk and the characters. He's lost Skarsnik there as well. So yeah. It's all about checking your priorities. Look for those priority targets that you need to take out first, especially missiles. Push after them as much as you can. Ignore everything else until you get the missiles dealt with, and then deal with the crappy stuff. But let's have a look at his army, see what we got done. Not a lot of work out of the characters. Gobbos. Not a lot of work from the Gobbos either. Missiles not doing a lot. In fairness though, they were mostly fighting clan rats and Skaven slaves who obviously aren't worth a lot in value, so none of these units were really going to have a ton of value. But we should see the value in the ranged units, 900 and 700 for a couple of Jezzails, 1500, there you go, for the poison winds there who did the work, 1200 for one of those wolf rats as well. So a lot of the stuff he didn't quite push after hard enough. The missile units, they're what did the damage to him. So this is Phoenix's build. Let's take a look and see what we could change and what we could maybe improve on to make the build a little bit more efficient at taking down those damn dirty rats. So we got Skarsnik as the Lord, which is an okay pick. I think if you got the large lords like Throt running around, he can threaten those. He's got Get Back Here, always useful of course for the Greenskins. He's got Spite of the Bad Moon, again can be useful for some damage. And of course Fermented Fungi, a very important ability to have, great for helping lords lose control. That's right, helping them lose control so that we can take advantage of their bad matchup. Tricksy Traps though, probably not really worth it. He used it on the trolls at the start, but it only has a 30-second duration, so probably not that much use overall. Probably better to save the money. And we had the Goblin Big Boss, who's kind of in conflict with the way he's set up. He's put on the Wolf, which makes him less effective in melee, but he's got the Night Stabbing, which suggests he wants to go into melee against other characters. So he's better off on the Spider, because the poison is useful if you want to fight other characters, but he was using it to charge after missiles anyway, so it wasn't really performing that role. We had the River Hag with Mither, which is a very useful ability for helping control things like Throt, who can be very difficult to keep a hold of. Didn't have the Swamp Breath, which is fine, don't necessarily need it. It can be useful though in certain places if there's clumps of Skaven. Didn't have Life Leeching, which I think is a mistake. I always take Life Leeching personally. Always good to have those extra bits of magic just so you can use those spells more often. And for his spells, he just had the 2 Doom and Darkness, good leadership debuff, and Spirit Leech. Spirit Leech could have been used on any of the characters, Skrulk or the Assassin maybe, to get rid of those two because they're pretty dangerous. And Doom and Darkness could have been used to try and rout some strong units quicker. But I'm not sure that really has a great place against the Skaven as a lore book. There are some better options we could choose. For the front line, we got some goblins, got those silver shields, cheap, they can take on Skaven slaves, probably lose to clan rats, but we also had the night goblins who could take on the clan rats, so goblins are a fine pick against the Skaven. Got the warlords boys though, who probably aren't the most useful against the Skaven because they have armor sundering, that's what you're paying for, but the Skaven don't have a lot of armor, right? So it's not a great deal of use. Could have saved the money and just got another normal unit of night goblins. 8-peak loonies though, always useful. They're unbreakable night goblins, so they still got that silver shield. They're great for harassing missiles because they can push after them, they can block missiles while they're running up to them, and they won't ever rout, so they're always useful. As I said, maybe too much in the range department. If you're going to fight Skaven and rush them, fight Skaven and rush them. Don't really need too many missiles. Maybe bring a couple, just the arrow boys perhaps here, just to give you something to shoot large targets with, or maybe to try and shoot at their ranged units with. But he did have that in the Goblin Wolf Archers as well, who are okay, I guess, as a pick, but they're mostly overshadowed by the Spider Rider Archers, who, as you can see on the stats there, they're much better stats-wise. They're better in melee, so they can go into melee if you want them to, and they have poison on both kinds of their attacks as well. So they're just way more use for an extra 75 gold. Those are usually a better pick. Stone Trolls, always useful. There's not really a bad place for Stone Trolls. A little bit of upgrades on those as well, so those are always nice, but maybe missing a Black Orc Big Boss to work with them. But another thing to think about is the chevrons. He's got 6 units with chevrons on, which is equating to a couple of hundred gold, which he could just use to bring better units instead of upgrading the ones he already has. So for example, the money we just saved there, taking off those chevrons, we can now get those Spider Rider Archers instead, who are going to be a much better and potentially more useful pick than the Goblin Wolf Riders. But the other play to make here is with the Stone Trolls. If you're going to invest this amount of money in the Stone Trolls, you should really bring the Black Orc Big Boss, because he has a bunch of useful buffs to help keep them going. Put him on a board to keep up with them. And we're going to get rid of Heroic Killing Blow, because we're not going to use him as a damage dealer, so we don't need that. We'll keep Get Back Here to keep the Trolls in the game when their leadership gets low, and we'll take the immunity to Psychology so they don't get terrorized by anything. They won't be affected by fear, because they cause fear anyway. And we're also going to take the most important one, the Brass Cleaver, which gives 9 melee attack to anything nearby the big boss. So if those Trolls are nearby, they get an extra 9 melee attack, which really helps their damage output. So if you're going to invest money into Stone Trolls, you should bring a Black Orc Big Boss and invest in him as well, because they'll all work together to make a pretty horrible team. So you can just have them commit all sorts of atrocities. Just make sure you have the Black Orc Big Boss on his boar so he can keep up with the Trolls, otherwise they're just going to outrun him. Now to the matter of the Lords and Heroes. So Skarsnik and the Big Boss. We're going to get rid of the Big Boss. We're not going to really need him. I'd probably prefer a much more mobile Lord than Skarsnik so we can harass those missiles. Perhaps Grom or maybe Azag on his mount, because Azag can fly around, and of course Skaven don't have any flying units. So all we really need to watch out for there is the Jezzails trying to snipe him down, or any other missiles trying to snipe down Azag. Just keep him out of the way until it's safe, or until he can get in there and harass the missiles with some help. If he gets focused down, it's going to be bad news. But we could take the same 2 spells, Spirit Leech and Doom and Darkness. Or you could try the aspect of the Dread Knight, which will cause terror. If you put that on the Trolls when they've beaten something up, it'll give a good chance to terror rout that thing away. So that could be an option, but these 2 are okay. You can do some work with these. Not necessarily the best lore book in my opinion, like I said, against the Skaven, but the other thing we need here is some cavalry. And we got 2 main choices, the Squig Hoppers or the Boar Boys. The cheapest ones, they cost the same, so they're not expensive. The Squig Hoppers though are faster, and they have a bonus versus infantry, which means they could be good at taking on things like the Wolf Rat, because these actually count as infantry. As you can see, it says they're a small entity if you look at their unit size. So that means the bonus versus infantry will be applied to them, even though they're not technically an infantry. The other option is the boar boys, who are slower, but they do have a shield, which can obviously protect you from some of those Skaven missiles that may come your way. But I'd still probably personally prefer the squig hoppers because they're faster, and you can vanguard deploy them potentially in some trees to help them avoid missiles that way. So we could bring 2 units of those. We could maybe roll with that as an army. We got a bit more mobility now in Azag. Not sure if any of his items are going to be really useful here. That could give us some melee defense and stuff. That could be useful, but we're probably going to have Azag flying around by himself most of the time, so these aren't going to be of great use to us. Although melee attack and leadership is of course always nice, but I don't think we really need those. They're not going to be much use because we're not going to be staying near our friendly units too much. But we could roll with that as an army. We could also maybe lose these archers and replace them with another unit of squig hoppers and another unit of forest goblin spider riders. And there we go. Now we got 4 units of missiles in the skirmish cav, 3 units of cav for all harassing and getting after those missiles. Stone trolls can punch a hole in the front line and then get inside. So this overall gives us a nice bit of mobility. Lots of mobility in all that cav, skirmish cav, the trolls, Azag as well, even the big boss. Lots of potential to push after those strong missile units or even artillery if they had them and get them. And the 4 units of spider riders could go into melee as well to get after them, or they could just shoot monsters if they had any, lightly armored rat ogres and hell pits. The trolls could also bash on them if they were in the battle as well. So we got some options in case the army was different and it had some monsters. We got the goblins that could deal with the clan rats and the Skaven slaves and could put some hurt on plague monks as well. Or we could go a little bit harder hitting on the front line. Instead of bringing gobbos, we could bring a bunch of orc boys. 4 units of those bad boys. So that just gives us a little bit of a harder hitting front line. Doesn't have the poison, but they'll break through clan rats and Skaven slaves that little bit quicker, especially with the war coming along as well. Don't forget we've got the war to use. And we could even go bigger than that. That is pretty hard hitting in the orc boys, but we could go savage orc boys as well. Well, they do lack the shield protection of the orc boys and the gobbos, but it's likely that the Skaven will opt to shoot the trolls instead of the frontline savage orcs. But even if they do shoot the savage orcs, it's kind of a bonus because then they're not shooting your trolls. So it works both ways. Oh, get rid of those rogue orc boys, replace them with more savage orcs. There we go, 5 units of savage orcs up front, although it's too expensive, so let's lose 1. And we've got the gobbos that can go in there as well, so we've still got a 5 unit front line. So we could roll with something like that. That might be okay. We can crush the front lines with the savage orcs. Even be able to put some hurt on the plague monks and things. We got those to harass missiles with, the cavalry to harass missiles with. We can shoot stuff with the forest goblins, large stuff maybe, and the stone trolls can deal with pretty much everybody. So that could be an option. What else could we do? I'm probably going off on one again here, but whatever. We could go a little bit more vanguardy. We could bring just night goblins up front. We could vanguard deploy them with the forest riders and the squig hoppers, and then the trolls will just have to move up with Azag. So we could try a sneaky vanguard deployed army. Those are always fun. It would give the Skaven little time to use all of their ranged power if they happen to have it. We got a little bit of money left. I can't decide what to do with it. Maybe just another unit of forest goblin. No, not those ones. Those are the melee ones, although they could do, but we'll bring the ranged ones instead. And we could go with that. So that's quite a simple army. Nothing too complicated there. If you find micro too crazy, too heavy, too hard, something like this is pretty simple. You just charge up with the gobbos, flank with the cav, have the trolls crush anything dangerous, have the missiles shoot anything dangerous. Simple. We could tag in Grom though, who can be a good harassing lord, but then we need to bring some magic. When the Orc Shaman has a few good spells against Skaven, better so than the Death Law book like I was mentioning. Brainburster is a good one, it's cheap in terms of magic cost, it has a short cooldown, and it's good against lightly armored troops, which is most of the Skaven army. So you can blow up loads of rats with that spell. And Here We Go is another good one to have as well. Drop that on your Stone Troll party when they're fighting something important and they will go to town on it. Or maybe on your Cav if they get into some important missile units, they'll take them out quick. Foot of Gork isn't so much use against the Skaven because it's very expensive and great against armor, but obviously Skaven don't have that armor, so Brainburster is usually the better pick there. So there's another way we could approach things. Greenskins are a very versatile army with lots of different ways to approach things, so this is why I love them personally. You can do so much with them. And, well, I could spend hours here talking about all the different ways we could try and attack people to have some fun, but we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, people. Hope you've enjoyed this. I will see you in the future.